Hi, and welcome to the Flashstarts live hangout intended for our teams and our applicants to learn more about Flashstarts and how our program operates. But I'd like to first point out that unlike the last time we ran this session, we are now utilizing the latest in green screen technology. See? Green screen. And next time we do this, we'll actually use it. But we're in a room with a green screen, so there we go.
This is the Flashstarts media room, which we make a lot of use of.
Right, so I'm Charles Stack.
I'm Jennifer Neundorfer.
And we are your hosts for this next hour-long session. We're also the faces you will see the most of during your summer at the Flashstarts Accelerator. Because of the accelerator programs, we are literally in your face. Some accelerator programs, you get to see pictures of the people that started the accelerator and occasionally have dinner with them, but this is more like living with us for the 90-day or 80-day period of the program. So that's one of the reasons why we like to schedule these hangouts, so that if you decide early on that you really don't like us, you can make that decision before you actually come to Cleveland and start here. So I don't know, do you want to explain a little bit about how we work on a weekly basis, just to give people a sense?
Yeah, so as Charlie said, our model is pretty hands-on. There are some accelerator programs where it really almost feels just more like co-working space. You have a cohort, you show up, and there's a moderate amount of coaching or structure. What we try to do is have a really hands-on, involved program. In some of our past hangouts and in our materials online, we talk about all of the different resources that we provide. For example, our interns, the hands-on coaching from Charlie and from myself. And the nature of those resources are such that it becomes a very rich program with a lot of structure, but structure that's flexible. There are a few things that are not so flexible. So we start every week with a pitch. On Monday mornings, everyone gets together, all of the teams, all of the interns. We gather in our cafe room. It's like a little family, all huddled around the campfire, except the campfire in this instance is a projection screen. And each of the entrepreneurs pitch. And the nature of the pitch changes from week to week. Sometimes it's an investor pitch. Sometimes it's your 30-second elevator pitch. And other times it's a customer or a sales pitch. And the goal of those Monday meetings is sort of twofold. First, it's to get all of the other people in the program up to speed on what it is that you're working on, because you never know who may have really great feedback for you on your pitch, or have someone that you should talk to address one of the problems that you're trying to solve. The second goal is so that you get comfortable with your pitch. And it's not just comfortable with the material, it's comfortable presenting, because as an entrepreneur, you are always selling. You're selling yourself, you're selling your company, you're selling your team, your product, and the only way to do that is by pitching effectively. So that's where we start. Then we follow up with detailed team meetings. So Charlie and I meet with each team, usually on Mondays. As we've grown to expand to 12 teams, we do that on Tuesdays as well. But it's really about setting the goals for that week. And rather than some programs where everyone has the same goal, for week one, same goal for week two, we take a more custom approach. So we realize that every team is at a different stage, and the goals for week one for one team may be really different than the goals for team two. So it's all about creating some custom set of goals and milestones for that week. And then we have team meetings throughout the rest of the week to follow up on those and really go deep then on one of the goals or one area where a team needs specific coaching. We have other program events throughout the week. We have Food for Thoughts, which are sort of like a lunch and learn type of program. We bring in mentors around specific topics. We have social events. Our program manager, Taylor Zorman, does a great job of scheduling all of those. So it's some formal, some informal. Sometimes the teams will say, hey, I'm going on a pitch this week. I want to do an informal pitch session. They'll bring in some food, some snacks, and get impromptu feedback from the rest of the group. So there's some formal and informal events that happen on a weekly basis, and we repeat that 12 times and get through the summer.
Now, it may sound like it's the same every week, but it's actually really different, because while doing a decent pitch is all about knowing who your audience is, so we change up the audience so that it has a very different focus. And the ability to convey the value of your startup to employees, potential employees, to potential customers, and to investors is really quite different depending on which audience it is that you're talking to. So that's why we mix it up, and it feels very different. And we're not. There's no formula here. I've been to a lot of demo day presentations from a lot of different accelerators, and there is a commonality within each accelerator where all the slides were done by the same graphics firm. They all have exactly the same 14 slides, and we discourage that rather strongly. So if for example, you build a slide deck and competitors are not actually significant for whether or not you're going to succeed, like you're in a totally new space and you can say there are no competitors, we'd just be making this up. For us, that's fine. You may get a lot of people to push back and say you got to have a competitor slide, but what did Twitter put on when they launched, right? What was on their competitor slide? Really hope it was nothing, because they would have been making it up otherwise. But that's just an example. Like, some of our companies will put together slide decks that don't have exits on it. Some opportunities in the startup deserve to have a slide deck that has exits. Others don't. You may not have any idea to whom you may appeal down the road. Financial projections are really similar. We'll take some startups very early on for whom it would be ludicrous to come up with financial projections, because they're not even sure who the customer is yet. So for those companies, I don't want to see projections, because they're even more made up than normal. So the slide decks will look different for each company, because it depends on what you're trying to accomplish in that time period. That's an important differentiator for us. A couple other things that, if you didn't tune into our last hangout, that we want to mention is the sheer number of bodies in our program. So we'll take 12 teams, 2 to 3 entrepreneurs on a team. So that's 25 to 30 people. We also have 20 interns. So we'll go from the 4 of us to 55 people on May 26th. And it's quite a dynamic process to watch all of those bodies circulating one another and literally crashing into each other. But that's where the energy derives. That's from where the energy derives. And that's a key part, just having that sheer engagement with other people. And when you mix into that the 40 or so interns that come in on a periodic basis, there's a lot of interaction, and there's a lot more interaction than in most accelerators I'm aware of. We put a lot of people into a small space. A lot of people wear headphones, but having that person-to-person interaction, the intern interaction, the mentor interaction, the interaction with the 2 of us, our door is not always open, but it's hardly ever locked. So it's easy to get our attention. We may yell at you for barging in, but the door is open.
And the intern piece is something that we touched briefly on in our last hangout, but having met some of you now, it bears a little bit more detail, because I know that a lot of you are trying to raise money. You have limited funds. You are a team of 1, 2, maybe 3 people, and there's a lot that you're trying to accomplish, and you're all trying to move as fast as you can. The benefit of having this team of 20 plus interns is that they plug right in and they become a part of your team. So one of the, we really pride ourselves on hiring the best software developers, graphic artists, social media experts who can plug in and add a lot of value to your team. And I'll tell you that of our interns, it's been roughly about half in each of the classes that we've run who have received offers after the program to continue working with the teams because they were that good. And the teams got to the end and said, wait, these interns are, they're going back to school. I'm going to lose them. No, I want them to continue working for me. So it's a huge benefit and not one that other accelerator programs generally provide. So we really, that's something to consider as you consider Flashstarts.
So we have a couple questions about interns. I'll just provide a little more color on that topic and then we can move on. We get 400 applications for our 20 interns. We spend a lot of time selecting them. They are, I think, almost all undergraduates this year, and we've selected 18, I think, of the 20 so far. But 9 of them, I believe, are software developers. We've got 1 or 2 each in social networking, marketing, finance, graphic design to finish out the 20. And they're all, it's a very competitive process to get into our program. We have won a bunch of awards each year for the quality of the program. So they will be not your regular intern. And then the second intern point that's been asked a couple times is how do they get paired up with the teams? So who determines who you get? And it's one of our strengths, I think, is our ability to let a free market operate. So as part of that first, each team will be told that the primary goal for the first pitch is to get interest from the interns, to explain to the interns what it is you do in terms that will both inform and excite them, because it's a recruiting process for the teams to get the interns that are most appropriate for them. So they'll explain why they ought to go to work for you, and then the interns can self-select which teams they're going to work for, and then Jennifer and I will swoop in and fix the maladjusted chaos that sometimes results when everybody wants to work for the same team. But that has not actually ever happened. We may have a little bit of imbalance where you've got 5 interns and we have to pair it back to 3 interns on a particular team and move people around as skill sets need to be moved around, but it is largely an open market process.
And someone asked about the first few days. There is a bit more of matchmaking that happens for the first few couple weeks while you're getting to know the interns and the interns are getting to know you, but then it really opens up into a marketplace.
More intern questions. Have you ever had teams fight over interns? Yes, pretty much every day. And that's because they provide a lot of value. So, can I get more of this intern's time or that intern's time? And there's not so much fighting as negotiating that goes on, but you can have this intern this week, but you got to give him or her up next week.
So another question that we have is whether we're interested in startups from Europe, and the answer is yes. So we have had, actually this year alone, we've had a number of international applications. We are definitely open to international teams. So just, we encourage any team to apply and we will review the concept. Assuming that you're, a good fit for the program, we'd love to have you wherever you're from. Our only stipulation is that you are here in Cleveland for the duration of the summer program.
Yeah, and then there's no requirement that you have to stay either in our facility, our city, or our country after the program terminates.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about backgrounds?
Sure. I'll go first because you asked the question. So I'm ill-suited for this job. I have an English degree and a law degree, neither one of which come up. Well, the law degree comes up occasionally, but I do not have a technical background in an academic sense. But the minute I got out of law school, I realized I did not want to be a lawyer and started immediately running a software company selling to lawyers. That worked out really well. I was much better at that. So my areas of expertise are in launching startups. I've done 5 of my own, and then we've done 22 over the last 2 years here. And then in between that, I probably mentored or angel invested and another half dozen or so. So I've seen a lot of startups and the mistakes they make. I've made a lot of mistakes in my own startups, so I have some history, but I'm not wedded to that. I recognize fully that the lessons I learned in a particular company a number of years ago may only be marginally relevant. What I have pulled from my long past are a series of patterns that do actually repeat, as opposed to particular tactical techniques that don't repeat. So I hope to be able to claim that I'm relevant in today's modern environment. And so the successes that I was avoiding talking about there, I had a really early online bookstore called books.com, thus proving it was the first one. And at one point, I think I owned movies.com, music.net, and a whole bunch of really later famous domains, but that goes all the way back to 1992. Then I started a really high-end enterprise software company called Flashline that is now a core product at Oracle after a couple acquisitions. Then, as I mentioned, some angel investing, and this for the last 2 years.
So Charlie is pretty modest. You can look up more about the companies that he's mentioned, but it's worth noting, and I know this will somewhat embarrass you, but there are some people who are investing in this space and running accelerators where they are doing it because it is all about their ego. That is the only time you will hear Charlie talk about what he has accomplished, and I think that's really worth noting. This is not, Charlie reliving all of his accomplishments on a day-to-day basis and having that be a leading piece. The other thing I will say is if any of you are looking for domain names, talk to Charlie because he listed about 1% of the domain names that he owns. And since he has been buying them since 92, he actually has a really amazing collection that some of our teams have said, ooh, can I buy that one from you?
Yeah, so if you have a company that's somehow related to Sundown, I still have that one. I haven't sold it. And I also own WebNotes, which for some reason has never been found useful to anybody. So got a bunch of those.
So my background is I've spent my career at the intersection of media and technology, both building companies at the startup, the true startup stage, and then also launching businesses within larger companies, so more of the entrepreneurship, each of which have their own unique challenges. I was at YouTube shortly after Google bought YouTube, and my role there was to figure out how to make money, which was, we eventually figured it out, but at the time it was quite a culture shift because the organization had never made money and was able to have a huge exit despite that model. Then moved on to Fox and News Corp, where I ran business development and new business development, more importantly, for the Fox Networks group. So basically anything that we as a company were doing on the digital media side, leveraging our existing business models in new ways. While I was at Fox, we launched Hulu, we launched a mobile broadcasting network, and different joint ventures and businesses within Fox. And where I would say, given my experience, where I really help the teams is on the go-to-market strategy, the financial models, and then the business model, and really how to take something that is sort of concept and then professionalize that out. So what I think you'll find is that Charlie and I have a very complementary skill set, which is why our partnership works, and it makes for a compelling coaching relationship with the companies that we work with. You'll find that sometimes Charlie and I don't agree on the advice that we're giving, and we'll be open about that, and we'll explain our rationale, and then it's up to the entrepreneurs to take the two different perspectives and reconcile them. Oftentimes we're able to come at a problem that may seem one-dimensional, but with our different perspectives, illuminate the different possibilities that exist in the different solutions that an entrepreneur may focus on.
There's a question that just came in, Jen, that's good segue for that.
Yeah.
On your background about do we have connections with big companies? I think Jennifer's a little bit more connected in that way than I am, but my companies are all big enterprise software companies, and Jennifer has a lot of media companies in her background. And she also has the benefit, can I say it? The Stanford Mafia.
Yeah.
She also has the benefit of the Stanford Mafia, which somehow manages to place one Stanford graduate in every major technology company on the planet. So,
and specifically to the question, which is about Samsung, yes. So when I was one of the companies that I started at Fox was a mobile broadcasting company, and Samsung was the first company that we launched a device with. So happy to talk with you, Victor. Is a company that you'd like to be connected with?
I have a lot of connections in the Kalamazoo Mafia.
Also a good mafia.
Which is not so big, but
strong.
Very strong, yeah.
So we have another question, which is around a target exit goal for the teams that we want them to achieve by the end of the program. And that's a hard one to answer because, as we said, our program is really custom, and all of the teams, they come in at different stages and they're going to achieve different things throughout the course of the program. But what we do try to do at the beginning is define what the end goal should be for each of the teams with them. So it's hard for me to say every team needs to get to this stage, but we will work with you so that you know what your goal is, and you can work to achieve that. At a very high level, what we'd like to see are companies who come out of the program having validated the market, built an initial version of the product, and have customers who are using that product. Some of our companies get to the point where their customers are paying them for that product, and that we really like. But there's no reason why with a software company you can't go from idea to customer using the product in those 3 months.
So there's a question here. It's not quite top of the list, but I want to answer it anyway. Upcoming industries and trends. And I think we both have a shot at this one. Some of the stuff that I'm particularly interested in, it would include Bluetooth, Bluetooth LE, the new low energy smart Bluetooth standard that lets you use Bluetooth as a short range networking or broadcast device. That's something we're very excited about. We had a company last year in that space. I still think there's a huge amount of opportunity there. The second area is in crowdfunding, or allowing angel investors to connect with startups in a more efficient fashion. We did one company 2 years ago. We have that does accredited investor verification. We have one company from this past year that is building a real estate crowdfunding platform, and that's all prior to the Title III, the real crowdfunding regulations even being released. So I think with real crowdfunding coming this year, according to the SEC, there are still many more opportunities in that space. And then the third one is healthcare IT. We've done a couple companies each year. Probably our most successful one from our first year is Compliant, which is a healthcare IT company. And we didn't come into the program with a huge amount of expertise, but a lot of my angel investments were in healthcare IT, from which I learned a lot of painful lessons. And a lot of the regional assets in the city of Cleveland are around healthcare IT. We have the world famous Cleveland Clinic and their Cleveland Clinic Innovation Lab. We have university hospitals, Metro Health, three enormously successful healthcare systems that are at the forefront of various phases of healthcare IT innovation. We also have the Global Health Information Innovation Center, which is a new facility in downtown Cleveland that cost like $1 billion and has HIMSS in it, which is the Healthcare Information Management Society group that's based in Chicago with a big facility here. So those would be the top three: Bluetooth, crowdfunding opportunities, and healthcare for me.
The other one that I would add, I think Charlie's list is pretty comprehensive, is or any solutions that are taking advantage of access to a big pipe. And basically what we mean by that is we are here sitting on, we have a gigabit fiber connection here that will be upgraded throughout the course of the summer to 100 gigabits. That's a lot of connectivity. And so we are looking for companies who have ideas that can really take advantage of high-speed bandwidth. So whether that's big data analytics, there's a lot in healthcare IT. There's stuff in the media world where you can't do it without a big pipe, and then that's really been a limit on the amount of innovation seen in that space. So if you're an entrepreneur out there who has an idea where connectivity has been the constraint, we encourage you to get in touch because we have access to the biggest pipe in the country, and we'd love to have you come here and take advantage of that and play in the sandbox.
We'd actually hope to make that kind of a key feature of our marketing to teams this year was the 100 gigabit access, because it was originally supposed to come out in May. Now it looks like it's going to be more like August. But nonetheless, we will have access to the first 100 gig commercial network in the world before anybody else. So if that is an interest, we'd be happy to explain how it would work and what the opportunities are for that.
So a good question from the audience, which is how does the relationship continue past the accelerator? And I want to touch on this because it is pretty unique. There are many programs where the relationship can sort of happens for the 3 months of the formal accelerator program, and then the accelerator moves on to the next class and the relationship is over. What we do is we run our formal accelerator program once a year. And we do that specifically so that we can stay engaged with the companies for what amounts to be a full year. We have the 3-month accelerator program, and then we continue to put our time, resources, and potentially even follow-on funding into a subset of the teams where there's real potential. The idea is moving forward, it has momentum, and also where we have good rapport and the relationship is strong with the entrepreneurs. So this year, out of the 12 companies that we had in the program last summer, we made follow-on investments in 3 of the teams, and we've continued meeting probably twice a month with about 7 of the teams. And that's probably about the ratio that we expect going forward. But if it's something where you decide you want to continue the relationship and we decide we want to continue it as well, it becomes a very close relationship. And look, it goes beyond just that 1 year. We have companies from our first class in 2013 who we still meet with on a weekly basis because they're still getting value out of it, and we have a significant investment in them, and it's worth our while to continue that relationship.
So let's see, I pick another question here about the phase of the company.
Yeah.
The phase of the company. Seems like a lot of accelerators focused on startups in the idea phase. We don't really focus on that too much. The phase is less relevant to us than whether we think we're going to provide value. So if you're far along and it's all about building out a sales team, that's less in our sweet spot than figuring out market segmentation, product market fit, how to price, than it would actually be to how to build the sales team. That's probably too far along for you to get the most value from us. So that's one example, but it's not so much where you are in the process. It's whether or not we're going to be able to provide value as part of our program.
So another question about a company that we worked with that was a response to market pull, which I assume is meaning market demand. So I think Complion is a great example of that. Charlie mentioned that before they do regulatory software to help hospitals and doctors comply with all of the regulations around clinical trials. And it was started by an entrepreneur who was an MD, PhD from a local university. He was doing a lot of clinical trials in his everyday job, and what he realized was that they were managed by 500-page paper binders, very inefficient. people were printing out these 500 pages and signing every page. You know,
fax machines were involved.
It was a very archaic process. So what he did to test the market demand was he cobbled together some open source software and created a solution, a product, with some duct tape on the back end, and he sold it to the hospital that he was working for. And that was his way of very early validating that there was market demand. They bought this solution without really needing to see how it worked because they needed it that badly. And then he went back and backfilled and professionalized his solution and built out something that was proprietary. But he was able to validate the market need very early. And as a result, that not only was attractive to us as Flashstarts, but it helped him raise a lot of capital early on because he was able to prove that the market really was there and that he wasn't a product looking for a market, he was a solution to a real market demand.
So the next question up that I think we can provide a pretty simple answer to is if you need $200,000 for a prototype, is this a good opportunity? Probably not. For a variety of reasons, we stick to the same formula on the intake. So the 25,000 for 8% is non-negotiable, for lack of a better phrase. On the follow-on funding, though, that is negotiable and it does vary. We've given as little as 25,000 and as much, or invested as little as 25,000 and as much as 300,000 over the last two sessions. A lot of that depends on how much we raise each year, and we won't know that until the end of the year. But if you need $200,000 now, turn to the next channel.
So Charlie, I have a question about what motivated us to become entrepreneurs and to continue to be entrepreneurs now. Do you want to start with that one? Well,
my answer is a little different than yours in the sense that I'm a really shitty employee. So I can't count the jobs from which I was fired. Well, actually, I could count them because it wasn't that many. I learned early on that I wasn't a very good employee. And I think that the joy of becoming an entrepreneur is being able to build your own work environment, to focus on the things that you love is a good prescription for focusing on the things you're going to do well, as opposed to things that you don't like doing and then probably don't do. So that's the entrepreneurial motivation is to really do something that I love. And I like starting businesses. I mean, I really love starting businesses because it's the ultimate excitement of a greenfield, open vista. Where do we go from here? I have no idea. And that's extremely intellectually invigorating. And my logic was when I first thought of this idea about 3 years ago was rather than do it one at a time, I could do it 12 at a time. And wouldn't that be more fun?
Yeah, and I think to speak to the motivation of why we're doing Flashstarts, in addition to what Charlie said, it's like, well, why not do this 12 times? I think what we both really love, and frankly the reason that we have structured our program the way that we have, and it's as hands-on as it is we love the process of partnering with an entrepreneur and helping them see their ideas and their concepts come to fruition. So it isn't about the businesses that we want to start or things like that. It's really about empowering these entrepreneurs and helping them navigate the early pitfalls and patterns and roller coasters that inevitably come up, and that is very fulfilling. We are a for-profit, so Flashstarts isn't just doing this out of the goodness of our heart. We're looking for people who are going to build big businesses that are going to create a lot of value for the entrepreneurs and for our investors, and that's something that's also very gratifying to the two of us.
So I'm told that despite our 1 gigabit fiber connection, that somewhere downstream from us, between here and Google, there is apparently a problem in our broadcast is cutting in and out. So please apply by April 1st so that you can get in the first wave of acceptances. That gives you 2 weeks to get your application in, or come to our website. You'll end up being sent to F6S, where we host our application process. It's really very simple. You fill out a couple of paragraphs, email address, short video, so we can get to know you better. And then we'll provide you with feedback in a relatively short period of time. We do now twice weekly. We go through the applications. We were a little slow in the beginning, but now twice weekly we're going through the applications and providing teams with feedback. So that's April 1st is the next rolling deadline.
So we have a few more questions that we will answer before we wrap up. A good question about mentor networks. So I think there are a lot of programs where the mentors are more or less engaged. What we tend to do is we have a network of probably now about 50 mentors who we've handpicked because of their areas of expertise. And what we do is try to, on an ad hoc basis and as it becomes relevant, refer our teams to specific mentors. So the mentors supplement the coaching that Charlie and I do. And what you'll find is some of our mentors are very clear. They're all clear about how they can contribute. So some of them are there to make connections for the teams. Others are there to go very deep and do one-on-one coaching with one team. And others are there to come in and provide office hours and work with all of the teams. So we give you all of that information so that you can reach out to them as well as help provide guidance. So I would say our mentors are as engaged and active as you as a company want them to be, because it's all about you reaching out to them. What about this one? Oops. Do you want to take this one?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. So how do you feel with a combined model between healthcare and social commerce? I'm not exactly sure what that means, which it's intriguing and that's good. So you've accomplished at least that. I think that there are huge opportunities in healthcare, and we're committed to having one at least, if not two teams in the space this session, so that works to your advantage. The social commerce space, there's been a lot of, in the exercise and diet space, a lot of social commerce has been effectively used there. We have competition and exchange of success and failure between people, and that's worked really well in motivating people and changing behavior for the positive. So I think there's a lot more opportunity there. Hospitals particularly are interested in it now that patient satisfaction at least partly figures into their funding mechanism. So I would say we would be thumbs up for the interplay between social commerce and healthcare, and certainly interested in learning more.
Yes, if you submit an application, we will promise to provide you feedback and have a discussion about it. So a question around what commonalities there are among successful entrepreneurs. And I'm going to take that question in a bit of a different direction, which is, what are we looking for in our entrepreneurs? We've said, we're looking for people with big, unique ideas, but we're also, so that's sort of our first screen. A really important second screen for us is coachability. You could have a great idea that is going to be the next billion-dollar idea, but if you're not open to being coached or not looking for coaching and not looking for feedback, then coming to an accelerator program doesn't make sense. That really is the bulk of the value that we provide. So those are the entrepreneurs where we find that we've had the most fulfilling relationships and where the relationship has led to the most success down the line.
So I have one here that I want to do the answer to it, so I'll read the question. What was the most exciting company you've ever started and why? And honestly, I want to say that the most exciting company I've ever started is this one, but I always say that.
Yeah.
That's in the nature of doing startups. Old news and history, just not that interesting. They call it, dead and dry for lots of good reasons. What's exciting is the future as the vistas unfold in front of you. So the most exciting company is always the one I'm working on currently, and that currently happens to be Flashstarts. You know, in the history of things, I had a metadata company, and I never would say it at the time, but it was awfully dull. And getting up and doing an exciting presentation around the importance of metadata was a lot of hard work. The online bookstore we did was enormously exciting because at various points we were growing 50% month over month, which is a really big, scary number to realize what happens. So, you know, they're all exciting when you do them, but the most exciting one is the one we're doing now.
Charlie, I feel like this question is made for you.
Oh, yeah, it's a simple one. What are your thoughts about crowdsourcing and collaborative engagement around deliciously difficult problems? Well, as if it doesn't involve food is my first question. We crowdsourcing my choice for dinner, which is a family tradition around our household. We had 5 kids, everybody got a vote, and then we did what everybody decided. And it, you know, it worked out to everybody's modest satisfaction. But seriously, there is a lot to be said for both the wisdom and the idiocy of crowds. And you know, if you look at the history of insane markets, you know, that's the idiocy of crowds. But there's also a wisdom of crowds that can be applied to lots of different things. So I know it's a vague answer, but I do think that we've only scratched the surface of what can be accomplished using well thought through collective intelligence applications. And no one asked a question that allowed me to do the answer, but our last year's company, Remesh, is a collective intelligence application that just gets it right in the sense that they've combined both the human ability to let us as humans interact with other people, recognize and improve on patterns, and then use the computer to make that process way more efficient than it ever was before. And that combination of human pattern recognition and computerized automated decisions is a very powerful combination. So if you're looking at crowdsourcing, I would apply both pieces of that equation and see if you can't come up with an innovative solution to whatever problem it is you're addressing.
So an easy question to answer, we mentioned that we require everyone to be here on site. If you're a team of 4 people or 3 people and you have, you know, a team member who is not here on site, that can be okay. We just require sort of the primary team to be here. And that's something that we discuss with each team on a case-by-case basis. So we have had teams before where 2 people are here in person every day and 1 person is remote. And then the final question is, and I think I'm understanding this question, which is, you know, say that there's a good idea, but the entrepreneur is not quite there yet, which I think means the entrepreneur might not be the right fit for the idea. If we see someone who, you know, has a great idea, but they're not the right fit, then it's probably not a good fit for our program. But what I will say is what happens sometimes is we see an entrepreneur that we really like who has an idea that we don't like as much, right? Maybe the idea doesn't get to be big enough, or maybe it's, you know, not truly a scalable idea. And with those people, we really try to work with the entrepreneur to see, okay, are there ways that we could change this idea or different ideas altogether that might be a better fit for our program? So we really do bet on, you know, we're not going to, if you come and talk to us and we like your idea but we don't like you, we're not going to take your idea and go and find someone else to do it. It's really the flip side where we tend to engage, which is, you know, if we don't love your idea but we like you, chances are that we'll work with you on your idea and see if we can figure out a better idea that we want to put through the program.
So we're going to do this again in about 2 weeks. And in about 2 weeks, we'll have announced our first companies. And so we'll have, I think we may go into a little bit more of the actual selection process how we actually vet companies, how we read through the applications. And I think we're going to try to give you a little more behind the scenes look, not just because we want you to know how we're handling this process, but because I honestly think it'll help entrepreneurs come up with a strategy for getting into an accelerator, if not ours, some other one. Because, you know, as much as we claim several unique facets, the goals for most accelerators are very similar in being able to get into the mind of the two of us as we evaluate what 12 teams to pick for this summer. Even if we don't pick you, I think it would be very instructive for you to listen to, not necessarily why we didn't pick you in particular, but to how we elected the ones that we did, so that as you apply to your next accelerator, if you don't get into this one, how you can improve your pitch and really get into the mind of the people making the decisions. So if you tuned in this time and don't see a value in tuning in next time, that was kind of a tease to get you to come back, because we are selling ads on this. That was a joke.
Oh, and one more question came in. So before we sign off, current cap table structure is not an issue for us. Assuming that, you know, what you can make work the 25,000 for 8%. So if you've taken, you know, capital before, that's fine. It's not, you know, it doesn't eliminate you from the program, although we tend to typically be the first capital in. If you have other capital and your investors are comfortable with those terms, then. And
it's actually an easy argument to make to pre-existing investors as to why this is not a down round by any stretch. And if you want some help on how to express that sentiment to some early investors, we've done it before, yeah. So we'd be happy to do that again.
Thanks for tuning in. Remember, the next application deadline is April 1st, so we encourage you all to apply.
Oh, and we'll have something on the green screen by then, other than a green screen.
Thanks for tuning in.